Grail one of the most badass women in comics? Welcome back, Nerd Squad, it's me, Amanda. Who do you think is the most unbeatable foe? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. Daughter of Darkseid. One of the most important facts you need to know about Grail is that she is the daughter of one of the most feared villains in all of the DC universe. Or perhaps even the multiverse. Her dad is none other than Darkseid, the Inevitable. Darkseid is known for being an enemy to pretty much all major superheroes in DC, mainly acting as an adversary to the entire Justice League all by himself. He is a master strategist, supremely strong and durable, and often fights using his Omega beams, which are also capable of transporting people away to apparently experience countless tedious lives with the Omega Sanction, which is how he actually disposed of Batman when we all thought he was dead. Darkseid is known as a new god and is often shown to be the merciless ruler of Apocalypse. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, show us that you love us by clicking that like button. Likes for Grail. Number 9. Omega Beams. Grail herself has the best of both worlds when it comes to her heritage, but we'll talk about her mysterious mother's side of the family a little later on this list. For now, we are focused on Darkseid and what she got from him. From her father, Grail seems to have inherited his strength, his durability, although both her parents likely passed both of those things on to her. But more specifically, she also inherited his Omega Beams. The Omega Beams are known for being powerful enough to even break and damage those things that are deemed unbreakable, and often shown to be a form of attack that never misses its target. Although despite inheriting his great power, you might also be surprised to find out how Grail feels about her dad, Darkseid, later on in this list. Number 8. Bringer of Destruction. It is believed that Grail is destined to bring about a great amount of destruction as Darkseid's daughter. This was basically a prophecy that was given pretty much right after she was born. It's believed that Mobius, known as the Anti-God or Anti-Monitor, will one day call on Grail to come to his side. Grail herself is also sometimes known as the Anti-Life Goddess, and there's a reason for that which we'll talk about later. It's pretty fitting too, considering she is both Darkseid's daughter, but also prophesied to join forces with the Anti-Monitor in order to wage war against her father, thereby endangering the universe, which if you've been reading comics in the last few years, you know that this prophecy seemed to be pretty true. Number 7. Daughter of Myrina. Grail isn't just the daughter of Darkseid. In fact, while many people know her as such because of his notoriety in the comics, she's actually more of her mother's daughter than her father's. Grail is also the daughter of Myrina Black, who is known as an Amazonian assassin, before the Amazons retreated to Themyscira. And so Grail has both New God and Amazonian heritage, being of Apocalypse but also of Themyscira. As Myrina's daughter, Grail was also given a mission by her mother and raised to help Myrina accomplish her own goal, which in turn basically became Grail's. Grail was born on Themyscira, but prophecies of how she would endanger the universe and ultimately lead to its destruction put Myrina at odds with some of her closest allies on the island right after Grail was born. Something that I think is interesting though is we've never really talked fully, I don't think, about how Darkseid and Myrina got together. Like, we do know that Myrina sleeping with Darkseid seems to have exclusively been part of her plan to defeat him by giving birth to his daughter and raising her to be his enemy, but that's pretty much all we know. And you know, that's also only what Myrina claims. So will we ever get a flashback? Did we get a flashback and I just haven't seen it yet? If I haven't and you've read it, let me know in the comments because I want to read that. Number 6. First Amazon to leave Themyscira. As her mother, Myrina fled Themyscira, taking the corpses of her once friends with her. She obviously also brought her newborn daughter. In fact, she was forced to kill the 2 women who were once her allies because of her daughter, and even has testified that she would pretty much kill anyone for Grail, no matter what Grail becomes. These were also in the early days of Themyscira, so as a result, Grail and her mother actually became the first ever Amazons, it is said, to leave the island. Something that would be obviously uncommon as time went on, considering that Themyscira was deemed a paradise by pretty much all who resided there. But Myrina, of course, knew she wouldn't be able to hide Grail's existence, knew she would meet more resistance from the other Amazons upon learning of Grail's heritage, and also had other plans that she was focused on putting into motion. Number 5. First Appearance. The first appearance of Grail came at the very end of Justice League issue number 40 from the 2011 series. Although, of course, Grail here was mainly a shadowy figure with a cool design. We didn't even see her full face here, but we did get her glowing red eyes. She was introduced by her creators Jeff Johns and Jason Fabok as the daughter of Darkseid. Darkseid also was introduced as the man she wanted to kill, her own father, and it seemed this was because she had done as the prophecy claimed and as her mother wished. She had set out to destroy her father and in so doing joined forces with Mobius, the Anti-Monitor. This issue was published in April of 2015, but we wouldn't learn of Grail's true origins in regards to her being born on Themyscira and all of that stuff until June of 2015 in the DC Free Comic Book Day issue Divergence. Number 4. Enemy of Wonder Woman. Although Grail is obviously tied to her father Darkseid, she is of course also tied to the world of Themyscira through her mother, and so it would make sense that she also ends up tangling with Wonder Woman, quite a bit in fact. And to begin with, Wonder Woman didn't even recognize Grail as one of the Amazons. Although Grail fled Themyscira with her mother when she was just a newborn baby, she is still of that world, and so it would make sense that the two would be enemies, or would at least be tied to one another in some way, especially considering Grail was actually born on the same night as Diana. At least, that's how it went in the more modern retelling of Diana's origins, where instead of Hippolyta just building her out of clay and miraculously, having this baby come to life, she was born naturally, and that was simply like a cover story. The daughter of Hippolyta and Zeus, an origin that Hippolyta chose to hide to protect herself and her people against the jealousy of Hera, and likely to protect herself against, some of the stigma of having slept with a male deity, which people probably would not be a big fan of as Amazons. So from the moment Grail and Diana were born, sharing the day of their birth, it seems like they were fated to have their stories intertwined. Number 3. Stronger than the Justice League. Not only is Grail the enemy of Wonder Woman, but she's also been shown to be even more powerful than that. When Grail first arrived on Earth during the events of Darkseid War, she not only made quick work of Wonder Woman, but even before that made quick work of the Justice League members she came up against. Grail was shown to be powerful enough to even straight up break Diana's bracelets. In fact, she bested the League and then some when it came to supers. Anyone who stood in her way initially seemed to be no match for her power or for her commitment to her mission, defeating her father. Number 2. Goddess of Anti-Life. While Grail herself would not deal the final blow to Darkseid, with that honor going to the joint efforts of Mobius, aka the Anti-Monitor, and Darkseid's ally, the Black Racer, who's basically turned on his master by Mobius himself, she would get to reap the benefits of helping to bring about his demise, which, is almost good enough. After successfully having her father killed by Mobius, Grail ended up taking the anti-life equation within herself, which is why we also know her as the Goddess of Anti-Life. That's what she became. This is because Mobius at the time, who was the Anti-Monitor, had within him the anti-life equation. After defeating Darkseid, he was able to remove this from himself, turning back into Mobius. Grail took this opportunity to take the anti-life for herself, becoming extremely powerful and becoming known as the Goddess of Anti-Life. Number 1. Grail the Godkiller. Following the events of Darkseid War, Darkseid and Grail would be given a second chance to get to know one another. Darkseid would return, but ultimately would end up as an infant. And in order to help her father regrow up all over again, Grail set out to get him some of that good god energy, because everyone knows that's how you raise people prematurely. This meant that she had to go toe to toe with Hercules, killing him. And even then, when Grail returned to her father, this energy was actually not enough to age Darkseid fully. Grail was dismayed at how Darkseid had only grown into his teenage years as a result of Hercules' stolen power. However, Darkseid was less disappointed. He just responded by telling Grail, don't worry, they're just gonna have to kill more gods, that's all. Hence Grail's title as the Godkiller. Although really, Darkseid was also a new god, and even before she set out to kill the gods of Olympus, she also helped to have him killed as well, so she's really earned that title in my books. She's double god killer. Grail truly is an epic character. Not really a hero, but also not always a villain. Well, I guess she's kind of always a villain. She's kind of an antagonist always, but not always a villain. She's something more complex when it comes to her origins and oftentimes her motivations. Thank you so much for joining me to learn more about her, and until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube. Bye.